Hey everybody, we are back. Musty Wargamers season 7, episode 9. It was hard to get that out tonight.
9 already?
Episode 9. Yep.
Wow.
Because it started last fall. Yeah.
How is everybody?
Super good. Yeah.
I am awesome.
We got folks. You're not feeling great? Or are feeling good? Did you say not feeling good?
Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm
good.
I'm ready
actually, I'm kind of high on pharmaceuticals. I didn't really talk to you guys about this for the show, but between pseudoephedrine and caffeine,
oh my,
I've been a little under the weather for the last couple of days. I'm not really too bad today, but I still have that little bit of that shimmer lightheadedness you have, like when you've got something and you're not really sure what it is. I'm better than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
I do have a musty drink tonight I'll share, but I'm actually taking it pretty easy on the musty drink tonight because I haven't even been I hadn't had like a daily drink at the end of the day the last couple of days because of it. But yeah, no.
You don't want to mix that with your pharmaceuticals.
Not too much.
Well, where's the fun in that?
Yeah, right.
That might turn out to be a whole different show.
So we got a lot of folks in the house right away already. We've got Chris from Walkabout Games. We've got Clark Stepp. We've got Clyde Dashing, and I think that's what we've got right now. That are showing themselves here. And so maybe what we'll do is we do have a little bit of an announcement, and we'll probably mention at the end of the show too for folks that come in later. But one of the things we're happy to say, and actually, Rusty, do you want to announce it? Because I've been talking a lot already. Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the show.
Let's start totally from scratch.
All right. Yes. Welcome to the Musty Wargamers.
Relaunch.
Which originally was 3 members. Then we went to 2 members. Then we had lots of guests and more guests. And now we have introduced 2 new permanent members to the show.
Yeah.
Welcome, Tim and Dan, our newest members of the show.
Yes. So we will still have special guests at times.
We had deaths.
Yeah, we had a couple deaths.
A couple of deaths.
Yeah, we excommunicated somebody.
Can I rethink joining the show?
A lot of pressure.
You've seen Spinal Tap, right, with the drummer? You've seen Spinal Tap with the drummer, right? Or have you? I don't know.
I haven't.
But okay, they cycle through drummers. They all die. And so, what it comes down to is we still have the ability on StreamYard to have special guests in, but we do have 4 regular members that will always be on the show. If somebody's missing, we'll have 3 on that night or whatever. But yeah, and so that's really cool. So folks that are interested in still being a guest and things can, and that's really, we like having fresh perspectives. Non-musty perspectives. No, just kidding.
Not a musty.
We've actually gotten mustier.
How musty can it be?
No offense, Tim.
And I'm
Anyway,
just going to start wearing
so
a
musty.
red shirt like I'm the landing party from Star Trek. I'm going to be the first one to go.
First to go.
I'm the first to go. Sacrifice the old guy.
The red
Throw
shirt.
him out.
Yep. The old grandpa.
Get him.
So so that's kind of that, and then we've got some cool topics tonight, but maybe we'll, in true musty fashion, we will go and do the round robin here of like what people are up to, and I think tonight it could be Rusty at the top right.
Yes. All right. How much time you guys got tonight?
He's clearing his throat. Me.
Sounds like
right.
Rusty's been busy.
All right.
That's good.
I've been working hand over fist on lots and lots of Tomb King stuff. So
Interesting.
no games. Haven't played any games since the last show, so that's that. But I do have, if you watched my video that went out today, which I forgot to hit the. It's like you upload something and then you go, I forgot to upload or hit the install button.
Oh, hang on.
Oh
let me get that.
man.
Here we go. There you go. Rusty.
There's everything I've finished since the last show.
That's very nice. Do you
All
have
right,
much
so
left
we
to
have
paint?
my casket of souls here. Now let me just put this down so I can use both hands. All right. We got the casket of souls here. Little bugger.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
And I printed off a base, so it now has a base to it. So it's kind of like a diorama. It doesn't move on the table, but it looks cool when it's on the table.
Is the
It's,
base size? Is there a base size specified for?
No,
certain edition?
I just looked at
Okay.
the dimensions of the skull field it's sitting on, because
Uh-huh.
it was supposed to erupt out of the ground. It's like a mushroom, with a mushroom of skulls.
Okay, I gotcha.
And then the necromancer, or whatever you want to call him, just sits there and goes, ah! It starts. It's got 2 spells that's attached to it. So,
Okay. Cool.
and it's a good spell that helps you, or a bad spell that doesn't help you. It doesn't help the other guy. So, and then I have my Screaming Skull Catapult, the bigger one,
Oh man,
Mhm.
the large
is that
one.
3D printed there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that's what you'd said.
Yeah, it's a nice little bugger.
Who's it from?
Let me see. Who did I find it from? It was somebody online. I
Highland
got it off 3D
Miniatures
Cults.
or okay. I didn't know if it's one of those main 3D.
Cult 3D had it.
Oh, okay.
And then I
Cool.
have a Prefla. It's like there's one of my BSBs right there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And here's the other BSB that not so nice yet. I got to work on him.
Well,
That's part of the project. for the night.
progress. Yeah, nice.
And there's my Lich
Cool.
there.
I like the brighter blue instead of just for, a lot of people do that turquoisey, which is cool too.
Yeah, it's like I wanted to go
Something different.
red blue is my
Mhm.
scheme with my guys, and then here's my
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the Tomb Kings.
Cool.
You kind of that neon blue look to him, and then
Yeah.
here's Kalita.
Okay.
It's so funny, Rusty, that when I had mine, that was the exact color scheme I used.
Yeah.
That it was that red, blue, gold, yellow,
Well, you have so
Just
much
so-
gold on them, and bone effect. You want something that's kind of a hot, cold. You got that hot,
Yeah.
cold thing going on. You want to have some contrast.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
here's Tomb Guard here.
Oh, cool.
I got a unit of those.
How big a
And
unit you
on the
making?
table behind me, right here, is more like 20 Tomb Guard right there. I got to work on.
Hmm.
So I got a lot of more Tomb King stuff in the works.
Cool. I like it.
So, and then I printed off a whole bunch of skulls, piles
Nice.
of skulls.
How about your musty drink?
The musty drink is 12-year-old Glenfiddich.
There you go. That's
Cool.
a fairly tried and true.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I'll pour myself a dram of this. So the liquid gold. And I just finished printing off these guys. And got them going here. I got 6 of them. It's the Necropolis Knights.
Necropolis. Yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So I'm thinking of maybe, they're like 45 points, I think, a piece. So I'm thinking about doing a few more.
Nice.
One of those things where it's like, I'll give me some options of different play styles. Oh,
So you got-
and I got some Scarab Swarms,
Oh yeah.
the old style.
Nice.
They got the newer ones, which have the swarm coming out This is the old style one.
Yeah.
Oh,
The musty style.
yeah.
The musty style. And you can't get mustier than Tomb Kings.
No,
How appropriate. Yep.
I was thinking dusty, but I guess musty applies too.
Well, one of their
Well, you
special
open up
rules
one of those
is
tombs, I would imagine it's pretty musty.
Musty and dusty.
they do have a special rule. It's like it's from bone dust or something.
Yeah,
like that.
from dust or something.
Oh, really?
Let me look it up here real quick. Which came today is dry as dust. That's the rule.
That's it. Yeah, here I've watched some battle reports.
Yeah, this came in the mail today. So
You got it.
Nice.
yeah, I ordered a day after yours, and I got it today.
How did Hey Rusty, how does the binding look on it?
Pretty good.
Is it all beat up or no?
That's good.
It's not ripped. There's no rips in it on the edges
No.
and stuff.
No.
Because a lot of them, I've been really hesitant to order and not just get it in person because I went down to the store and they had it and it was all beat up, so I just told them to keep it. There was actually like pieces of you could see the brown, like
The
in the
cardboard,
binding,
yeah.
like the cardboard, like in the binding, and I was like, you know what? I told him, I said, even though I kind of am a collector, I just said like I'm a collector, in addition to playing, and I just said, I don't really want to pay for this, and so. I know it's not my local game store's fault. It's GW, or
Yeah.
at least it's the people that they hired,
Shipping. Yeah.
to ship it over. But
I've heard a lot
So
of
I've been really
complaints.
hesitant.
People have been getting their pre-orders that some of them had, not a lot, but of course they would post it, but they're showing damaged product coming, and the box wasn't damaged, it was shipped to damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah. They I was looking at they had some over at the store because I had to get some paint, and they were, like you said, they're all just like tossed in a box and banged up, and all the corners and stuff were all dented.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's to me. The GW books are expensive enough, and
Definitely. Yeah.
I just think like, why would I actually accept that?
I wanted to get them in person, but by the time I was able to get, which I don't know, I probably would have had to go the first couple days because I think around here none of the stores had very much in stock. But I ordered all the 3 books for the Bretonians, then the rules, the Forces of Good, and the Bretonian journal, and online, and they all came in pristine condition.
Yeah.
So I just decided what I'm going to have to just do it, or it'll be, I don't know when I get it.
So Dan, Oh, go ahead, Rusty.
I was going to say is that we have the Warhammer store here, so you can get an easier selection because they'll get theirs before any other.
Yeah,
place.
I did stop by this last week, and I finally got to the Warhammer store in Omaha. And all he had was the Bretonian box set left.
And here they haven't had anything. They haven't had anything here at the Warhammer store where I'm at. Like the local game store had more than they did. And I called them up. They said, we get shipments on these days, and we can't guarantee what's coming in. Like we have no idea what's coming in, but you can check. And they really didn't have anything.
Huh.
So Dan, how about you? What about your update?
For me, I've been, of course, no gaming. That's my normal. Although I did been playing Heroes of Normandy, which is a miniature board game with my brother each week. That's been a blast. He's a board gamer, so we do that. That's a good compromise. That's been fun. And then otherwise, just steady as she goes on the Stalingrad terrain. Making lots of good progress. Just slow and steady. I'm trying to, try to do each piece to where I'm really happy with it. And so it was planned to take some time. And so slowly gaining on that. And
is that the one with the big hexes?
No, big squares. It's all squares.
Okay.
Devil Pig Games. It's a French company. Anyway, that's Heroes of Normandy. Tons and tons of expansions. But so then I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel on this project, though. Not that you don't. It's sort of like an army. I'll constantly be adding some little new thing that I want to add to the terrain, the Stalingrad table. But I'm starting to think ahead to what my next project. this is what I'm actually kind of painting tonight. It's this is a
Oh,
resin piece.
Smokestack.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's a ruined one, and then I've got
The
two
rubble.
pieces
Oh,
of the
cool.
rubble that lay out next to it.
Oh, I like
Um,
that.
So did
Yeah.
you paint that brushed white and then put in the brickwork, or did you go the brickwork?
I actually did the brickwork first, and then I just blodge paint on I've got 4 different sort of brick colors that I plotch on there, and then after that dries thoroughly, I spray it with matte varnish heavily, and then I go in with here it is right here. I just use drywall spackle
Huh.
Oh yeah.
and add just a tiny bit of water to it. So, and I use a brush to apply it and just brush it on, and then I'll smear over it with my finger to get it down into all the grout lines,
Yeah.
and then I'll come back. What I'm doing now is then going back in and I start dry brushing the brick, and then I'll use a little bit of inks or shades, or washes, whatever, to start getting some more variation in color and some weathering. And then the very last thing, I've just got some right here, just some artist pastels, just from
Oh.
Hobby Lobby, and I just use a brush and rub on the colors that I'm using, and I just brush it on to give it some more shading and grime and that's the steps that I used, and then finish it up that way. But
That's looking really good, Dan. And I
Wargamer
don't,
is not doesn't have his supply of stuff unless he has some handy.
oh, there you go. Yep, yeah. And then this is it. I did just about finish this piece here, and I can't tip it too much because the crates inside there, you can kind of see them, are all just loose, so they can be. And this is again all resin kit. Each of the poles were separate, the ends were separate, the 2 halves of the roof were separate. I made my own bracing in there to make it fit on, and then
nice.
kind of rusted up the roof. Let's get where it don't have glare.
Yeah, you can see the rest.
Just the rust streaks is supposed to be, corrugated tin. But basically kind of finished that piece up just before we started the show. So
one thing, Dan, before you go on this, not that you need anything with what you're doing because it's looking fantastic, but since you like to combine a lot of things together, this is really good for that kind of thing, for the whitewash. Vallejo Model Wash White.
Okay.
And it's made for models. It's not specific. It says on it for white vehicles, or it says for white vehicles, but really it is a white wash,
like a wash.
And it's a wash. Yeah, it's like a thin wash, and it might be something you might want to consider experimenting with, because you probably could find a way to incorporate it like in some of the things you're doing.
And I've seen some people online use similar, not the Vallejo, but other similar type products, like they were making a diorama with bricks. I've been watching lots of YouTube videos to try to figure out the technique I wanted to use. And they were doing that, where they would go in and not pin wash. They could almost go over the whole thing and then kind of wipe off the brick surface and get a pretty nice looking grout look. Because this is fairly labor intensive, what I do, but it does give me kind of the look I want. But I had kind of forgotten about that. That's a good thing to think about.
Yeah, yeah.
And then drink wise, I had my rum and Coke earlier with my wife tonight, so I'm going with the sparkling water from Kirkland, orange flavor, 0 calories.
Nice. Very good. So how about you, Tim?
Well, as you know, I'm still mired in my Successor Kingdoms project.
Mm-hmm.
And been working on a unit of 12 Greek cavalry. Here's like the first 6, but these are all on the like a 50 millimeter base with the magnet on the bottom, and then I get the little
very nice.
I got those little discs off. They're really, really thin too, very thin. I don't know if you can just see. They're not like a washer, because I used to start off by using washers. I found these on Etsy. Yeah, on Etsy.
What are they called, or what would you search for?
I just put in little metal blanks,
Blanks. Okay.
circular round metal blanks, and these came up and they're really thin and they work really great. And then on the back rank, which I'm still working on the ground effects. Whoops, let's go this way. And for the back rank, these are all going to be on the individual cavalry bases on the back.
Mhm.
So if I want to have like a small unit of them sometime, I can put them on a smaller base and that sort of thing. But I have a base standard unit of 12 for Hail Caesar I'm working on. Finally got some of my character models came in from Aventine and
Cool.
Gripping Beast. I got some different ones. Yeah, go this way. I keep going the wrong way with the camera. Yeah, finally got these all primed up, ready to go. Going to get started on those. Yeah.
He did it.
My butcher.
Yes.
Score.
He needs. You know how you go through, like, I'm just touching them up. Like, this is an army I've had for a long time, but you know how sometimes you your painting changes over time. You get better, you're more skilled at different techniques.
Yes, definitely.
And so
Absolutely.
I mean, like a few of them, especially the big, nice, really old metal models, going to go over and kind of might do a little sprucing them up a little bit. If they're really bad, I'll probably just go ahead and strip them and start over.
Mm-hmm.
This guy wasn't too horrible, but he wasn't really completed either. And my next project is to work a little bit on this guy, the hunter. And
cool.
He needs a little bit of work. Just some detail stuff that back in 20 years ago when I first started doing these guys, getting some of this. Was it 20 years ago they came out? Almost. And
Ogre Kingdom.
Yeah, Ogre Kingdom was about 20
About
years
the last one, that they came out with.
Well, they came out for 6th edition, which was basically 2000 in that area. So
yeah, it's right in that area
2001.
somewhere.
But weren't they the last army to be released for 6th edition or something?
It might have been. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might have been the
Well,
last one.
yeah, the 6th edition.
Because they weren't a thing before that, and they came out late, I thought.
When I very first started, the ogres were all a part of the Empire Army.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and brought them out for 8th edition, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tim, any musty drink for you tonight, or are you?
Oh yeah. Well, I had my alcohol early because obviously this starts at 10 o'clock where I live.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
My musty drink tonight is I went all old school and got me a Big Red.
Dang it.
I don't think I've ever heard of those.
Sugar,
never heard of that.
Sugar and caffeine, and that's all that's in this can.
Jeez.
What's the flavor?
It's like red cream soda.
Cinnamon cream soda?
No, it's just red. It tastes like kind of
so
like
it's cream soda. It's just a red flavor. They sell cream soda here in Canada, and it's not called red, but it is red. And so growing up in New York, cream soda used to always be kind of like a light brown, like color. Like it was not quite as dark as root beer, but it was like that color. And then I saw my kids drinking all this red stuff, and everybody's telling me it's cream soda, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'd never heard of that.
Soda is clear.
So, yeah.
That's what I remember.
Really?
From when I was a kid, it was always clear.
Ours was always growing up. Was always like a light brown, like lighter than root beer, but not quite. Well, I suppose it's my turn now. So and then we'll catch up on the comments real quick before we start our first topic, I think. And so I can't officially say that I'm, other than just varnishing them, I'm done with my Musty January project now that it's February 15th. These guys are finished. And so
that's the 75.
Oh, there you go.
That's a howitzer. Yeah.
So, yeah.
You really can't really see it well. Like you can't see what I'm about to say here well, but one thing that I really liked is I used for the first time Valet Army Painter's dark tone ink. I'm not talking about the dips, but like they're thin inks. But I use their soft and their strong tone quite a bit, and they always have a brown shade. Well, on the green for the gun, I used the black one, like, and it gave me a really nice finish that I liked. I thought it was really good. So that was something that was cool. When I first painted these guys 10 years ago, these ones that are plastic, that came with the plastic set, I never at that point in my painting career painted eyes. And so I've kind of, even though I normally paint eyes now, I kind of stuck with that to keep the army the same. So these guys are a quicker job in some ways than what I would do on certain things, but I just kind of painted them to the same standard that I did in the past. Just really just did like an ink tone over the eyes, over the face. But I really enjoyed painting World War II again. This is like the leader. You can't, it's kind of hard to see from here, but the colors came out kind of nice. For the sort of more drab, as we were talking about, tones that you have like in World War II, I kind of enjoyed a change. I just finished while we were talking the tank crew. There's just 2 miniatures, but I've just put Agrux shade on the base, and I put soft tone on the miniatures, and so they're wet, so I can't really show them. One thing I will say, there's 3 miniatures for the tank crew, and I did find out, for those of you guys that are wondering, there on the actual website for Warlord Games, it says that there's an optional rule within the Tank Wars book for dismounted crew. And so, do you remember when I was talking about that on the show? Asking about it?
Yep.
There are actual rules to use them in the Tank War book that you could potentially use if you wanted, I'm assuming there's something, I didn't look at them, where they you roll to see whether they live, but you could actually have them take an objective or escape the tank and do something, which is kind of cool. Of the 3 miniatures, 2 of them are on one base, and then one of them is just holding a submachine gun. I really like the miniatures, but the one holding the submachine gun's great. But with the 2 guys that are on the base together, it was a horrible casting. The face was just really bad on one of them. I noticed more and more as I was painting them, I noticed it. And so to be quite fair, I was a bit of a disappointment in this casting. I tried to clean it up, and it just, it's not good. And it's also 12 years after I bought them. So, But what I'm going to do tonight, so since I finished that, is I'm just going to be assembling Chaos Warriors. These ones that I did the speed painting on. I'm just going to just assemble some stuff while we're chatting tonight. As far as, I did play another game of 2nd edition 40K last week. And so that was fun. I played against Sisters of Battle again. We're still learning it. My friend's just still trying to figure out the rules. And he actually brought a vehicle that was kind of like a type of rhino for Sisters of Battle, and he had flamers on it. It's too bad he didn't have meltas, because they would have been much better against things like my dreadnought and things like that. But yeah, it was fun. It was good. We're still kind of figuring out our way through the 2nd edition rules. As you guys know, it was Valentine's Day not that long ago. I got this. Oh my gosh, I'm in so much trouble. What's this, Rusty? I'm in so much trouble. Rusty said, excuse me, Rusty, I got this as a gift. And my wife thought it was vodka, and it's called Ciroc. It's a French product, and I had never had this before. It's a really nice looking bottle. I still to this day have not had it. I just took the plastic off the top for the show tonight. It says on it that it's a distilled grape spirit made using French grapes, which to me that makes me think of grappa, if it's a grape distilled spirit. But what it says legally on the product is it's a vodka product, but it's definitely not vodka, I don't think, because vodka is not made from grapes, right?
No,
I
don't think so.
I didn't think so. I didn't think it was. In any case, I thought I would.
Well, vodka could be made out of any type of fermentable material.
Well, maybe it'll taste like vodka, but I'm just having it in front of you guys tonight. This is the only thing I'm having. I'm just going to sip on a little of this because I told you I'm on some medications tonight. hopefully I don't get too loopy. If I have a like a reaction, you guys are all here, so somebody can contact the authorities or the authorities or the ambulance. I don't know. So, it's interesting. It does actually smell more like vodka. It doesn't smell like grappa. You know what? That tastes like it tastes like a not a flavored vodka, like where they put in artificial flavors, but like a hint of something that's flavorful, but mostly a neat vodka, like vodka neat. And so I definitely could use this. The more I have it, like this would definitely slip right into a screwdriver and work exactly the same as vodka.
So the thing is that when anything that's distilled will come out white. It doesn't matter. So what you're going to get is a distilled product that's going to have a hint of what it originally had, but most of the flavors that you ever get are from the cask that it's from aged in.
Okay, cool. Well, it's pretty good. I thought maybe while you guys are painting away that, well, maybe before we start our first topic, we will jump into the show. I didn't notice as I was chatting that Striker Mel has jumped in. Hello, Mel. Thanks for joining us tonight.
I had to remind him the show is going on.
So I'm going to just skip down here to some of the comments. Clark says, I think when I was talking about my illness kind of stuff, he says, my entire family has suffered from RSV for the past 2 weeks, so I understand the sickness season all too well. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff going around here too. And because I kind of caught it from, I'm on the tail end of a bunch of people at work that got it. And they just let anyone in, says Clyde. And I'm not sure. Does anybody know when that came up, what he was referring to on that one?
When he was talking about Tim and I think.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
during
right.
that discussion, I think. Yeah, so he's not wrong.
Desperate time calls for desperate measures.
Yeah.
I think Clyde was talking about Rusty's paint job when he was saying, I really like that scheme of the Tomb Kings.
Yeah.
Chris says, I just saw a Tomb King Kickstarter called Armies of the Sand has 15 days left.
Yes.
Oh. Just for the STLs or what?
Yes.
Had movement trays and scenery as well as minis. They are dusty, musty, and all wrapped in mummy issues.
Mummy issues. Oh, that's awesome. I have mummy issues.
Our store sent all the damage books back, and it sounded like it was more than half the books. Yeah, I looked when I got my rule book that's here. Out of 6, it was the only one that wasn't damaged. And part of that may be that I got it a little late, and everybody picked through them, and like that I got the last one of several that were not damaged. That's possible, but there were like 5 still there that were damaged. Okay, Striker's like, howdy. Totally forgot this is the Thursday show day. I'm painting Star Trek red shirts and a young Scotty and an old Scotty mini. So that's good timing.
Yeah.
Cool. And 13 and a half ACW.
Oh.
Clyde says vodka is potato. And that's not the first time I heard that. So you're like, it probably is usually potato.
It can be whole grain too. It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
You know what?
Because we have there's a distillery right over by you, Dan, that's making vodka.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's like oak.
Lonely Oak.
Yeah, that's it.
That is literally right by me. I didn't know that's what they were using.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that this is gonna kill anything that's going on inside me right now.
It might. It might. It's worth a try.
Good mix. Meds and vodka. We'll call 911 or 999 or whatever that number is up in Canada that you guys use.
Yeah.
Or Ghostbusters. Yeah, that would be good too.
I'm gonna call.
Ghostbusters if emergencies are too slow. And then Clyde says Rusty's a fountain of knowledge, or a fount of knowledge instead of a count of knowledge. He's a fount of knowledge for booze.
Booze.
Yes. Rusty's
Study.
when we talk about like liquor, like Rusty will talk about the hints, and like he'll talk about all like the subtle aspects of it. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell you that this one is good and it won't last very long. That's about all I can tell you.
That's valuable information too.
I'm actually a little better with beer, and I think it's just because I've drank beer for so much longer than I have whiskey. Because I'll be out, and my wife and I will be out for a drink or something, and I can taste the difference between like a malty flavor versus like a molasses flavor. Obviously hops. Everybody, since IPAs are so popular now, I think most people know what a hoppy flavor is. But I never used to be able to do that. But I'm not as good with as much as I drink a lot of scotch. I should probably take a scotch course and go down and have somebody say what it is. I use like my own terms, not probably standard terms for it. Clark is talking about grappa, which is something I've talked a lot about on the show. I had some grappa from Italy when I was in the Czech a couple of weeks ago for the first time. It was pretty good. Never had it before then. You're the first person that I've ever heard say they liked grappa when they first had it. Because in all fairness, and I've had what I believe is some good grappa, like imported from Italy, like some recognized brands. I have about 3 or 4 different types of grappa, and I finished my first bottle that was given to me as a gift. The first bottle I had was like in the Princess Bride, where he says like I took this like arachnid venom for 3 years, and that's why I can, I'm immune to it. My first bottle of grappa was at our cabin because it was such a harsh taste. Like people would tell me it tastes like Sharpie, like what Sharpie smells like. And what I would do is I would have one shot the moment I have like a 3-hour drive to my cabin. When I get to the cabin, I would have a shot of grappa each time. And then I finally finished the bottle after that many trips. And by the time I was done, I actually was like, you know what? This tastes like grappa. I don't mind this. Like it's not bad. And I actually bought more. Yeah. Like my stepfather who likes whiskey and everything, like he actually was visiting, and I let him try a shot, and he's like, yeah, I don't think I ever have to have that again. It really is a harsh taste. Arguably some of it is smoother than other stuff, but the distinct grappa taste for me was very much acquired. And so the fact that Clark actually liked it the first time, I've never heard that before in my limited exposure to people having it.
You ever have ouzo?
Oh yeah, I actually like ouzo.
Yeah.
And it tastes like licorice kind of. I really
Black
enjoy
licorice.
that. A lot of times they drink it mixed with just a little bit of water.
It's cloudy.
Yeah, and I like that. I think it was my big fat Greek wedding that got me into trying ouzo. That movie, the comedy. I was like, try some of that. So we do have a couple topics tonight. Basically, our first topic is how long is the ideal time, if any, to refresh a rule set, i.e., in other words, make a new edition?
That is an excellent question that can take a lot of different turns. I guess we can break it down into styles of games.
You could break it down any way you want to answer the question. Like if you have an opinion that it depends on the style of the game, you can break it down to any way you want.
Well, as we all have learned over the years that any sort of fantasy game really requires for its audience to adapt and mold itself over time. Now, what that time frame is might depend upon how complicated the rules are, or how large the arena that they're doing. For example, let's use A Song of Ice and Fire, a game I got into when it very first came out, and it's ever expanding right now. It's I don't know how much you know about Game of Thrones and all that, and you have Westeros, and then you have, well, then across the sea you had all these other smaller countries and stuff, and it's where the Dothraki came from and all that. So that is an ever expanding game, and it's always evolving, and they're always making new additions of the rules and cards, and because every time they come out with a new faction, they have to kind of update and put new stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
With those sorts of games, let's talk about one that was near and dear to my heart, old Warhammer Fantasy. I guess.
I'm just doing props. These are props.
Oh, you're using props.
Keep going. I actually have props for your discussion, so just keep going.
Oh, okay, great. so with that one, it's about 4 or 5 years would go by for a new edition. That sound about right, Rusty?
Oh, about every 6 months, it felt like.
We're getting towards his response.
Well, yeah. Well, especially with the army books, because they would come out with a new rule set, and then they would come out and update all the army books. Well, when you've got 14 armies, and one about every 2 months would come out, or 3 months, and that by the time you got to the last army getting a new update, if it got one at all, they were already talking about the next rule set. Fantasy games like that, it's almost their lifeblood is change, to keep the interest, to keep the, I don't know, just to keep that interest up. Now, if you switch over to like historical wargaming, where you don't have all the different nuances that you have to have with fantasy, because with fantasy, obviously, we're trying to make our guys all into superheroes and magical hoo-has and doodads and all that kind of stuff, where in historical, you really don't have that. A guy is a guy is a guy, and now there may be different levels of training or that sort of thing, but that really doesn't have to change that much over time once you've got your core rule set. Now, my historical that I like to go to is obviously Hail Caesar. Now, they did just come out with their second edition, which I really like. They tweaked a few things, but it's still historical, and there's not going to be a lot of additions of special rules and special weapons and magical this and magical that. I guess I could see where those could go a lot longer as a rule set before they required a change. But like for the fantasy stuff, I think it needs to be a much quicker sort of turnover, unless of course you're just going to make a game, you're going to send it out as it is. Here you go. These are the books. These are the rules. Have fun. Which would be rare in that genre of game, but I'm kind of hoping that that's the kind of the way that this new old world game is going to go, where we're going to have our books, we have the rules, and I've been reading through the rules, and I have to say I'm kind of liking what they did, kind of liking it, and we'll see. But I think you break it down into genres, then you got like skirmish games. Skirmish games can fall somewhere in between, because you've got such a small model count. The games are so small. You got to have that sort of extra interest with your guys, because each individual model on the table becomes more important. They have more options available to them. But yeah, I would think that once we break it down, and then I'm thinking for a fantasy game is depending on all the outside books, like remember the old days, each army book had to be published and sent out and all that, and that took a lot of time in between. So I would say 3 years for fantasy and close to 5 to 10 for a good rule set of historicals, because there's a lot of old historical rule sets that are still being played today that are very viable. It's just a lot of people don't know about them because there's always kind of a new focus or what do I want to say, Rusty? The way they bend the game a little bit, but it's still historical. Like some are command and control, some are all combat, some are like very strategic.
They have their niche and how they're attacking that genre.
I couldn't think of what the word I wanted to use, but yeah, stuff like that might come along. But I would say it's much longer for historicals than it is for fantasy, because fantasy they just got to keep selling it to you.
Yeah,
it's got to keep stoking that fire. Old historical wargamers, our fire is burning all the time. It does. It just does.
That'd make a good T-shirt.
Yeah.
We didn't start the fire, but we keep it burning.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go.
All right,
So who's
Somebody
next?
else take over. I think I blabbed around into a circle, I think.
Good points, Tim. Like,
Yeah.
Who's interested in
I'm going to go off
going
with
where
what Tim said there.
Uh-oh.
Is
you're gonna go off on him?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm going to get a smackdown.
Be a beat down.
Rusty's going to smack down on me.
I'm not going to
Bring
smack you. Stop all over you. No.
Oh,
I'm just thinking, when you think about the fantasy, the one that always we're dealing with it right now is that the old world is that the old Games Workshop style of fantasy was you release it, and like you said, about 3 years was how long it took them to get through all the army books. And you'll find that the last 2 or 3 books that come out in that set are made for the new set.
And they're little OP.
Yeah. And they seem to be OP. And then after a while, then you realize, oh, okay, it's that they just haven't got these are designed for the new set. So that's why they're OP then. But it's designed to sell stuff anyway. They're a miniature company that, well, they want to sell miniatures, so you're going to have some OP stuff. And it's like, oh, the new stuff. It's awesome. We got to get that. Got to buy 5 boxes of it, just all it does is push sales. But yeah, it is one of those things where you are looking at about every 3 years or so. And a skirmish system, which one of them I really enjoyed playing a lot of, was War Machine Hordes.
yeah.
And I don't think anybody here played it other than me. But
Yeah, I didn't.
It's like 2005, I think, 6. I think the first edition came out, and then it was years later before it was a long time before they came out with a new edition. And that one was really, their second edition was really good. But how they worked that one, which was an interesting mechanic, was instead of having a completely new edition, they would release new units with new stats to force it into the system. So it was like, okay, we're that one unit may be a little OP in a certain way, but they kind of got away from having to totally design a whole new system, which I kind of like that whole mechanic of it. And it also did the same kind of thing of GW force feeding you to buy new stuff because, oh, that's the new shiny thing. But that new shiny thing was kind of limited. It's like, oh, you can only have so many of them. But yeah, it's historicals. There's historical games that I still have that I can pick up right now, and people are still playing it. They just haven't changed the edition.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of historical games, if they get a new edition, not much has changed other than, we had all these erratas and some kind of a different concept came in that we wanted to worked out is actually works better for the system. So it may not be the guts of the game may be 95% still the same.
Yeah.
But they're just adding a little bit of difference to it and calling it new and improved. But
New and improved.
But
All
you
right,
find
Dan.
I think the least amount of change comes with historicals.
Yeah. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with several points that Rusty and Tim have brought up, because I think that's one thing too that's the difference. I hadn't really thought about that, but between genres, because in historical, which we've talked about in other contexts before, how it's like I'm thinking bolt action, and I'm sure Hail Caesar, any of those. It's fun, it's fundamentally set in reality, obviously. So the armies, the equipment, all that is, they can, even if when they release it, they don't have the rules or whatever for the Gauls yet, or for 100 Years War or whatever. But it's all based in reality, and it's all, if it's a historical period, unless they're trying to branch out too far, it's going to be fundamentally inarguable kind of how they fought. The equipment was limited, and so just be some special rules to create flavor for the different armies. So that being said, what would a new edition introduce? To me, in a historical set, all you're really doing is eventually, when you get enough errata or FAQ, and then you want to refresh the look of the book to keep it kind of modern, whether it's just layout, presentation, photography, adding more color or whatever, just to keep it, kind of cutting edge looking. Then that's probably all you're ever going to do. If the game is fundamentally sound rule wise, then I know, like Warlord Games, when they bolt action, the first to second edition, very, very few changes. They're minor changes. Like you could have printed out a few pieces of paper that had the changes, but they did improve the way the book looked, changed a little bit of the layout, clarify all the different FAQ and just changes of wording to make rules more clear is really all it was.
Yeah.
But I can see in fantasy, and I know we're just picking on GW or whatever, but it's again, that's a wide open. You can start introducing like new spells, just making them up. You can introduce new races, just make them up, and so then how to make that into a balanced, with what's already out there, but yet make them unique, especially if you're, if you've got 14 or 15 different factions. So then you start probably pushing that envelope or introducing a new concept for the rules to make this new army unique and interesting. You can say, it's just they do that to make you buy the new miniatures and the new rules and army books, and maybe so. But I think just even by nature of that, if you're creating new imaginary stuff out of your head, you're going to start introducing new things that are going to need to be clarified or added to the rules or rebalanced, because you're introducing some brand new concepts or different weapons or different magic spells, fighting formations, different winged creatures, and that can maybe make it where now all of a sudden that old edition doesn't really cover that appropriately. And then also I would say the last thing I would add is how well the rules set was originally play tested. Is it balanced? Is it solid? Is it sound? Because some of them, some games, it seems like when they're released, it's almost, maybe they did the best they could or maybe they didn't, but they kind of throw it out there and then and then the public are the playtesters. And then as they find problems and things that need reworked or reworded or clarified, then they'll release a second edition, and then just kind of see how they take that. And then it's like the community almost evolves the rules, which again is more likely to happen, I think, in a fantasy or science fiction type setting, because it's, again, you can add anything you want. So I think it's a little bit of the nature of it. But for far as historical, I think unless you need to refresh the look of it, layout, and include FAQ and clarifications and errata, a rule set can stand for years, which, like Tim and Rusty both said, when you just look at that in real life, that's kind of it seems like how it does go. But I don't know. I mean, those are just some, having not thought about it, but until we just announced the topic. But I don't know. What do you think, Palmer?
So, out of curiosity, just before I answer, can anybody confirm how many times Flames of War has actually been updated?
Twice.
Oh, it's got to be more than that, because
Isn't there a 4th edition?
Well, it's been 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, right? Twice.
Is it 3rd?
Okay, it's 3rd edition.
Yeah.
3rd's the newest. I can't confirm that. I don't know. I don't play it. It's been out forever, though.
Clyde says he thinks it's 4.
I was thinking it's in the 4th edition, but I'm not. I don't know.
I just ask before I say this, because your last point is the one I wanted to start with, actually, which was, I wonder, not having thought about this extensively, I wonder whether it really, to some degree, is kind of based on how good the rules are to begin with. And the reason I say that is, if we look at like GW, and I know a lot of people like the older rule sets, but it's changed dramatically since like Rogue Trader, let's say 40K until now. It's changed dramatically. And I'm not saying it's for the better necessarily. And with Warhammer Fantasy, it's changed dramatically. A lot of people can play really 3rd edition of Warhammer Fantasy as the original, because that was one that was out during Rogue Trader, and very few people that I talked to play before those editions, which I think had more towards role playing, than the game that it is now. But it's changed so much over time, and pretty dramatically in some cases. Like the game really went from much less models, more role playing, and much grindier, to later on becoming in the middle sector of Warhammer Fantasy, the mid generations of being army list based, and what we normally see today. And when I think about it, we talk about fantasy as being something that should change more, or makes sense for it to change more, and then we even mentioned GW, but then I think of like the Middle Earth strategy battle game, and I think about how even though they came out with another edition, that it was basically the same. Like it was right. So it was done so well that really it effectively hasn't changed, for the most part.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
And so from that purpose, it is based on a set of books that is not adding to the universe. Like I would, mention that, that is true. The narrative shouldn't be changing too much, for the Middle Earth strategy battle game. But I would argue that to say that it's because the narrative isn't changing, that's why the rule's not changing, is actually probably not true. I actually do believe it likely is because of how good the rule system was made to begin with. And then like bolt action, I would agree that I think they did such a good job with the 1st edition that, the 2nd edition has gone on for so long, because really it was just tweaking a bit the first edition, but it wasn't really like making a new game and a new way to play at all. And so to me, that's another example of like a good rule system. And then even though some people refer to it more as a board game, one of our favorite games on the show, BattleTech, is actually effectively a fantasy game, even though it's human based and it's not aliens and stuff. but it is fantasy based, and it's new robots that could be made and all that kind of stuff. But it effectively has it's very close, as I understand it, true to the original rules after a really long time. It's probably one of the best examples of a game that was designed so well to begin with that people still like it today in its original form. And so,
excuse me.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and then so what that makes me think is that how good it is to begin with should have something to do with that, and whether that's the playtesting that you spoke about, Dan, or whether it's the writers in general and what they come up with. Is it a game that actually has such a new mechanic that they do need to make some changes and make a second edition because it's something so new? Maybe that's possible. But there are a lot of games that it feels like they have to change it, and they truly are fixing what they got wrong the first time. There are a lot of games that feel like that when you get to the other editions. And so what that tells me too is that for one reason or another, it just wasn't good enough, like on first release. There is the whole aspect of, the business aspect of selling models and making a release cycle so you could sell books and models and like things like that. And like, there's another component to the discussion of that. But to me, like I don't know, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about in the sense of what it should be. Like that's just a reality, a sad reality.
Yeah, correct. So what would be your answer then? I mean, back to the original actual question.
What should happen? I think the ideal situation is that we get a really good product to begin with, and we get, and that we don't really have too many editions. Like, I don't think that it's wrong, in any way to do a slight refresh, and try to tap into the fan base and make a couple of improvements and do like a second edition after a really long time. Mm-hmm. But I think it should be fairly surface and just, maybe in some cases, like it could be improving even the materials and like the things that you actually have and refreshing the materials and things, like there's like, you can get a nice hardcover book when you had a soft cover, cheaper product because it was the company's first rule set. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of second editions can be a fun thing, like, to get them, but I don't know. Like I don't really like in general, the whole release thing. And the one example that I didn't give, the 7th edition 40K was pretty much what they used for the Horus Heresy game. And even when they went on to 8th and 9th and 10th, and they kept the 7th edition, and just because they felt probably that it was suitable and there's no need to change it. And I think that that just shows to me that, if you get a group of people that really like the background and the game, and you just keep releasing cool models and the focus is on the models and like new armies and just, if you have a good enough game that you can stick with it, you know what I mean? And stick with that edition. Even if it is fantasy in some cases, and like almost like the biggest example, like 40K, where we feel like they should need to change it, every 3 years or something. And yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. That's also my answer with only thought about it just like literally now. Like,
right.
Same. And I'm not thinking in absolutes. Like, I'm sure there's reasons to think the other way and stuff. It's just, that's kind of my initial thought.
Yeah, I mean, ideally they would never, maybe like you said, just to tighten up just a couple things and maybe give it a kind of a refresh look, or like you said, a hardcover book, or something like that. Because some people say they do it to create buzz, and that can be, and I know it does create some buzz, but I think there's other ways that they could do that without, because it also irks a lot of people off when either they liked the edition as it was, or it's like, well, now I got to, even if it was just the rule book, you got to buy, a lot of rule books are $50 to $70 if it's a hardcover fancy rule book. And so is that a good business model? I mean, apparently it is for 40K, or at least has been. Maybe it's going to lose that, but I mean, I'd be happy to keep, bolt action. There's a couple little rule changes I'd like to see, and every once in a while in the Facebook group you see, comments on what people would like to see, but they're all just little minor things, and so I don't know what they would do with that rule set ever. I think Hail Caesar and probably what's the black powder is also in that category. That's only had a second edition, and doing the same kind of things. Again, if it's a high quality rule set to start with, and it's not trying to do too many things. I think with the Lord of the Rings too, like you mentioned, Palmer, that's it's an extremely well respected rule set, and I've never played it, but I have the miniatures and I have the rules. But in some ways you could characterize that as a historical game. That it's low fantasy as far as magic, and then it's kind of it's following an established closed historical setting as far as Middle Earth goes, which maybe simplifies it, but regardless of that, it's obviously an extremely well written rule set, which fundamentally, like you said, there's no need for more additions other than if you're trying to generate hype or revenue, if the rule set is tight and you're not trying to introduce a bunch of new concepts or races or other things midstream to where the rule set can't quite bend that way, and so then it needs readdressed.
I've played it a couple of times, even though I don't have it, and the trait system that they use with sort of magic, and I'm calling them traits, but they're basically things that characters can do.
Yep.
It is fairly, I don't know, it feels pretty fantasy to me as compared to, I guess you could do historical and you could make characters have traits. You could give like a extreme tactical ability to Winters from World War II or something. You know what I mean? Like you could do stuff like that, but
there are
don't
games that do that
usually. Yeah.
Yeah, they have Vietnam games that'll do that. They have World War II, just literally where you're running a squad or a couple of squads and on a campaign system where you do that. So they're out there, but yeah, the Lord of the Rings is a pretty unique rule set. Well, and I know it was basically what's that Western one that GW did, Legends of the Old West? It's basically that rule set, just reskinned.
Tasty.
Yeah, it's got all the same mechanics, almost exactly the same.
Rusty's ruminating on his musty drink as we're talking.
Oh yeah, it's like I'm
tasty.
enjoying the apple pear aspect of it.
There you go. Just what Palmer said.
Yeah.
He's picking up all the tones.
Well, let's look at what this is like one of those ones that I think the comment section's been on fire. Let's see. Well, actually, Clark, I don't think we got to this one. I have to hunt a couple of bottles down in Wisconsin. I'm sure one of our liquor stores has some. I think he's probably talking about the grappa.
Probably, yeah.
Clyde says 25 years. And I think that was an answer to the question of how long it should be between editions. And
that's how long. Maybe that's how long Bolt or Flames of War has been out. How long has Flames of War been out?
Early 2000.
Was it? I thought it was even older than that. It was
close.
I thought it was closer to 2000 or 98 or 9 even.
Well, if that's the case, then they're hitting every 4 or 5 or 6 years.
Yep. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that would make sense, I guess. Not every 2 years, like GW, says Mel.
2002.
Chris says 10 to 15 years, not anything less than 10. I hate every 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, I agree.
Mel says, except BattleTech, never change that. Clyde says, BattleTech is perfect for specimen and amber. It's a perfect specimen in amber.
That's great.
That could be some, like, really hard to get the pages open, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Clark says, I think it depends on the company. Do they create a new army every year? If so, they probably need a new rule set within 5 years. Otherwise, you'll end up with a terrible power creep.
Yeah.
Especially since in latter factions, the company starts getting into the groove of creating rules and abilities.
Yeah, they come up with some new concepts even, or some, yeah, they start getting outside the box too far that the rules can't quite manage it.
I was just looking
says-
up here about the Flames of War.
Mhm.
Yeah. What'd you learn?
Third edition was 2014 and fourth edition was 2017. So somewhere in there, I missed an edition.
Oh, okay. So they did it in addition in 3 years.
Yeah.
In that particular case, anyway.
Sounds like they're taking a cue from somebody.
Yeah.
It's got to be a money grab.
And then Clyde says, I think for... Oh, no, he says, I suppose for fantasy, I mean, Mantic rebalances Kings of War every year with their Clash of Kings.
Yep.
I think 4, he says. And then
4, he was talking about for Flames of War. He looked
Oh,
that
Flames
up.
of War.
I was
yeah.
that.
And
yeah.
that's what Chris said too.
He was right. It is 4. Yep.
Let me Google. Yeah.
He's going to
there's a
Google it. 4th edition. Yep.
Yeah.
They got it figured out before we did.
All right.
Yeah, they went from 2002 to 2011 on first edition.
Yeah.
And then they, every 3 years, have been changing.
Interesting. And I don't play it, so I don't know what they're changing. If it's, fundamental.
I thought there was a major difference between first and second edition, but
I don't see bolt action changing much. They might rebalance some armies, but I don't know what they would change. Just little things.
yeah. But I've never
brought him up.
Such
I
a
brought
cheap
him up
game.
fan of
because-
Flames of War, but
They seem to be the closest to the GW model within the historical market from my limited understanding. And, and that's why I brought them up as a question, because I thought
Yeah.
that they might be an example of where they're pushing the envelope of our favorite fantasy companies as far as how often they're doing the editions.
Yeah, and I'd be curious for somebody. I don't know if anybody in the comments plays Flames of War, or if anybody here knows what. So what are they changing, or is there reasoning for that, or what is happening?
well, they changed the point system. That was the big one. That was a major change. So that was, if I remember, from second to third edition. I guess what I considered would be fourth edition now, but
Gotcha.
I think we upset Tim. Oh, no, he's back. Okay.
I'm back. My pink's over there.
I was going to say.
He's left.
Well,
He left the building.
Clyde says, yeah, I love Flames of War first edition. Huge changes to second edition, especially since I had no tanks for my company. One of the things I liked about it, I love the visual of Flames of War. Like whenever I actually would check it out and never played it and look into it on the table, it looks really enticing to play. But no, from I don't know, most of the people I talked to, I didn't get an impression.
Yeah.
That it was something I would want after speaking to them, but I never played it myself.
When I was getting into bolt action or deciding what I was going to get into, I looked at Flames of War. The minis looked cool and the games looked pretty cool, but every time I watched a battle report, I just couldn't get into it. But then I started watching Battlefront. That's after I'd gotten into, or is it Battlefront, Rusty? Is that right?
Battleground
Or Battle Group.
Battle Group.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. But that was after I was already into bolt action. But I'm like, I really like that's still same scale and everything and doing the same thing. But I liked the look of that game and the rule set just via video so much better. Flames of War I don't know. To me, it just always looked kind of, kind of gamey. And then you'd have these tank parking lots, like they call them. And I don't know. It just didn't quite do what I was thinking. And then there's some cool concepts in Battle. I think that is Battle Group. But
because Flames of War is more of a battalion level 2 plus, because you got so many
yeah, that's true, right?
you got companies upon companies of tanks on the table.
Yeah, and it didn't look for World War II. For some reason, that just didn't match the way it looked like it should to me. I don't know why.
And that's why when you look at Battle Group, it's a company style game that's more or less based on infantry.
And I like that the command system that they have is appealing in actual gameplay when you watch. And I don't know, I just like and the different off-board assets, and I liked it. Just looked cool. Anyway, I know that's way off subject, but
Yeah,
it made me
makes
think of
sense.
that.
It's not overly off topic, but yeah, it's
Yeah, and I don't know how many editions they have or anything, so I can't say.
Battle group.
Yeah,
I think there's just one.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that there's been more, and I don't know how. Maybe it's not near as popular. I know Flames of War was always kind of the gold standard.
Yeah, Flames of War is more popular, but one's more historical than the other one's just. I always looked at Flames of War is 40K with in World War II.
Well, that's kind of what it felt like to me. But the funny thing is people describe bolt action the same way, and I never played 40K, but so I can't really speak to that. But to me, I don't know.
I don't think it's true.
I get the real feel of it's very Hollywoody. I get Hollywoody. Is that a word? But it
Hollywood.
yeah, but it's definitely comic booky. So it's not realistic or anything like that. But I enjoy that. I like that. I mean, it's like when I used to play. You played Army Men as a kid. It was all pretend, and you were a hero.
As someone that went to bolt action after 40K, I would agree that it's a very easy transition for someone that played 40K to play bolt action, because I don't think that one of its beautiful things is that I don't think it's a difficult rule set to learn, which I think is one of its strengths. Yeah. And so after playing 40K, I felt very comfortable playing bolt action, but I don't think they feel the same at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they feel the same at all.
People act like it's just 40K in World War II skin. A lot of people will comment, and I think maybe what they're trying to say, I don't know what they're trying to say, but usually those kind of people that are saying that are saying they like the Two Fat Lardies game,
Chain of Command.
Because I think the angle that those comments are coming from is they're looking for more, I don't know if realistic is the word, or more
tactically challenging.
More technical, just it's a more challenging game system, and it's not, good for tournaments. It's
supposedly there's more synergies among your units that you're using.
Yeah, you're using them more historically, the way the units work together. And that's probably definitely true. I have the rule set and I've got the figures to play. I've never gotten a game in, but
the Two Fat Lardy games are harder to learn. If Sharps Practice is anything like that, I would say I really like Sharps Practice, but it's a more challenging game than, let's say, Musket and Tomahawks to learn.
Yeah, they've got some really novel concepts, rules concepts, and it just takes you a little bit to kind of wrap your head around, which is cool. I mean, it's fun to not just see people reskinning other rules and mixing up existing rules to create new things. I mean, that's fun too, but they do some really innovative, unique things.
I would agree. I do like.
Well, sorry, Rusty.
I say I'd rather play bolt action over Flames of War, even though they're different scales.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to have different capabilities. And it feels, and what I think I love about the bolt action is you never know if you're going to go or not.
Yeah, I like that. And I don't know, every bolt action game I've ever played, I swear, no matter how it went, it told a story. And that to me is what I love about miniature gaming is the visuals and then the story it tells. There's so many heroic, cool moments that just and just following, this squad story across the game board and how it evolves. I mean, you could literally, make a movie out of almost every game I've ever played, unless you're, trying to play on an ultra competitive level and you're not even looking at them as figures. They're just game pieces but I mean, if you allow yourself to get into it, it's just the way the game is designed. It just feeds into that. I'd love it if they would come out with a campaign system. You could come up with one on your own. I just don't know why they haven't done it, just to allow your characters to develop, and link up some campaigns in that sense where you're getting some new recruits in, and your lieutenant gains experience, and what does that do? And Two Fat Lardies do that in their pint-sized campaigns, and I think all
Dan.
that's Lieutenant Dan. So I think there's a lot of potential there that game is just ripe for that. Now I'm always wondering why they don't release a book that gives you some guidelines on how to do that. And maybe they will at some point. But
Well, interesting. So we have some comments in regards to this topic, and I thought maybe before we go to the next one, we'll just finish up this topic with the final comments.
There you go.
Because there's a fair bit.
What you trying to say, Janet Dan?
Janet Dan.
Clyde says, huge changes to second edition, especially since I had no tanks for my company. Chris says, I hate parking lots, but I love Battle Group.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into Battle Group, says Clyde. It has supply and engineers. Battle Group, HS First Edition. Clark says, I think Bolt Action has old GW game developers on their staff. Alessio Calvature, right? Isn't that Calvature?
Yes. Yep.
I thought
he wrote the rules.
Main guy. Yeah, he was the main guy. I think there was somebody else with him for second edition, or am I wrong about that?
Somebody else completely did the second edition, but it is. I don't know that it even has his name under the rules as an author, but I mean they didn't change anything.
Right. Warlord is full of XGW staff.
Yeah, they do a good job.
Joshua says, not being a World War II gamer at all, but I do like the Two Fat Lardies games. I enjoy listening to Rich and Nick talk about it.
Yeah,
they have nice videos. Clyde says, I like the 148th Tactics for first platoon level skirmish World War II.
That's an interesting game. I have not played it, but I've watched some gameplay of it.
Question is, are Two Fat Lardy games popular in the U.S.? My answer to that would be, I don't think so. Like, I actually don't think that they're. I think that they're selectively, like, throughout the world, wargamers purchase them. But I didn't get a sense that Sharps Practice or Chain of Command, or like, if you were to walk into a random gaming store, I think you probably would have to walk into 50 to see one.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
I don't mean on the shelf. I mean being played.
I agree.
I don't think I've ever seen a Two Fat Lardies game ever being played.
Yeah, and so because of that, I think I'm being generous when I say 50.
Yeah, I agree.
And so from that perspective, I would say they're not. But I think with people that know wargaming, that go from popular ones to then choose ones that are interesting and well done, I think those people play them. Because I do think that they're good games.
I think they take a little bit more work to play, maybe too. And it'd be more for people. You got a couple gaming buddies that they get together, at each other's houses or something. That's the kind of thing. I don't know that you're going to see them like in a gaming store, partly because the store is probably not selling or ultra supporting that game or even World War II. And then the fact that it's a little bit more cerebral than And it's just whatever reason around me, like people are all still hog wild over 40K. Kings of War has a pretty good following in my area, but it's mostly in Age of Sigmar. So those are just kind of the games. If you want to go to a game store and play, that's anytime I go to one, that's what they're doing.
He
Just
who
fine.
controls the dice rules the universe, and in this case, that's GW.
So that is interesting. Sometime we do a show on them, but I'm just, how do they get that kind of control?
Slowly over time.
And they piss people off, but yet there's enough people that love it, or the people that still piss them off, but they can't resist it. What is their magic formula that makes that happen?
Accessibility to other players with the same system.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Some of it's nostalgia they're tapping into. People have been playing those game systems forever.
Oh, yeah. That's why all four of us got the Old World book.
Yeah, there's probably no other reason I would have.
Yeah. Joshua says, Musty drink is Kirin beer. I've heard of that before. I don't know that I've had it.
Oh, yeah. I've had it.
Well, and he's in Japan, so maybe it's something to do with that.
Chris says, Rick Priestley helped on a ton of books. And Clyde's last comment before the next topic is just import some Brits Commonwealth folks to play TFL games. Okay.
Oh, sure.
I didn't realize they're that popular. I mean, I realize that's where it comes from, the two, over there, but so does a lot of other stuff. So I didn't realize that they were very commonplace.
Well, one thing is that they're probably pretty popular in clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which we don't I don't know. The clubs are not really a thing in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Watch YouTube, that's and true. All the guys in the UK are going down to the club, and I'm like, wow, that'd be cool.
That is a whole new meaning in North America.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, if we're going to the club, the wife's not invited.
Yeah. Going down to the club.
On that note,
tonight you are.
That's actually similar because I don't think they're probably invited in either case, but most cases.
Anyway.
So next topic.
Yes.
Is this one's a bit of a. I thought that one ended up being kind of interestingly hard in some ways, but this one I think is even harder as a topic.
Oh man.
What are the significant changes to miniature wargaming over the decades? And so like going back like 40 years, 30 years, 20 years. And like, where has it been going recently, or where is it going, in your opinions?
Well, Rusty's got to have opinions. He's been playing.
Well, I'm not the only one that's been playing forever and a day.
Well, Tim has been playing a long time too.
Well, biggest change within the last decade, 3D printing.
Yeah.
3D printing. I mean, if you want to think about something that's made wargaming available on a wide scale, it's 3D printing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's opened up the variety and the availability at a scale that even for Rusty and I, we remember when, you go to the game store and they may or may not have had what you were looking for, and it could be weeks before they get it in. Now it's as simple as downloading an STL. If you've got a 3D printer or have a friend with one, they can print it out for you.
So if you had to name, because that's like the recent development for sure, and if you had to your best knowledge, whether you were there or not playing the war games then, if you had to go back to something like original BattleTech and the Star Trek game, like the
Starfleet
one with
Battles?
the ships, Starfleet Battles.
Oh
If
yeah.
you had to go back to that era, or maybe chainmail, that time period, long time ago, like late 70s, early 80s. And then if you had to go through from that time period to now, and if you had to think of like the 90s and the 2000s and then the 2010s, what are some of the things that you think, in your opinion, I think this is a hard question. I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but if you had to think about a couple things that you think like traversed that time period is like the changing the game, like the nature of wargaming, what would it be? Because like 3D printing would definitely be one of them, like you said. To me, that would be more recent.
I would say one that would be big. I don't know if this is what you're thinking of, but just the internet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not only could you, because wargaming is niche, even you get into historical and other things, it's even more so. But that opened up the ability to find manufacturers, find like-minded people, find terrain, start ordering stuff from overseas. I mean, that go back before the internet, that wasn't even, there was no
magazines.
way.
Magazines.
It was magazines. I had a subscription to Dragon magazine from TSR through the 80s as a kid. Had been like middle school and high school time frames, and that's where I would find out about Raw Partha and RAFM and Grenadier, and then I would order. You could send a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they'd send you a black and white thing of their catalog, or maybe even a big catalog if you spent $3 or something, and you wait for that to come. And that's the only way you could find out about things. So internet to me would be game changing, just information and the availability of things, because there's stuff going on all over the world. No idea, never would have found out rule set like that.
Well, for me, the big change I found is when I first started playing games, there was no internet. Everything was by a catalog, and you maybe had a hobby store. Most of them were just geared towards model building
and model building. Yeah, I used to go to train stores. Yeah,
if you wanted more, it's like most of my early fantasy army was ordered online from a catalog and sent to me, because they would even have somebody that was carrying a lot of stuff.
That's where I get my Raw Partha stuff. I was ordering on the catalog over the phone. You'd call them up.
Yeah. All right. So we got 3D. I'm not saying that we're working directly backwards, because internet, I don't know. I kind of became aware of the internet in 1994, 1995. It's right when I became aware of the internet. I can remember that time.
Having access to a internet store that sold stuff online wasn't until like late 90s.
Yeah, because 1995 is when I actually got like an email address. I wasn't using the internet for a lot. I was like sending an email, But we've got
almost 30 years ago.
so let's say, yeah, exactly. So we've got internet, so like distribution, and information, like things we're doing right now, like literally meeting other people, and discussing and arguing about stuff for the first time on a mass scale. But what other things, like like aspects of the rules and aspects of companies and other things, like do we think that has changed a lot since then? Like playing a game back then in the late 70s, early 80s versus playing a game now. So we've established that we can get miniatures easier, and that we can order them faster, and that we can discuss the games through the internet and all that stuff. But what else has changed, like dramatically?
How about let's talk about paints?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, good grief! Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, as the miniatures of part of it has grown, that support area of our game, the paints, the brushes, the glue,
washes, inks,
block, you got it. I mean, how many companies now make paint when back in the early days,
oh my God,
you got what you got.
Yeah, that's true.
the very first models I ever painted for Warhammer Fantasy, I painted with Tester's paint because that was the
Same.
only paint available to me in this town.
I did
Yeah.
had the same.
Same
Yeah.
My
here.
first BattleTech miniatures were painted with testers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
little
you couldn't-
those
You
glass
could try
ones,
to
yeah.
Yeah, those little glass bottles. Yeah.
Tiny. You couldn't
Yeah.
get the lids off. The metal lids on the glass.
Oh
That's how I
God.
with
learned
me.
that pliers work great.
Yeah,
That was
it's
my-
bottle opener.
Yeah. Those are my first as well.
Yeah.
Well, you
And
know,
it was like when I came to Des Moines, and then I found this wonderful line.
Poly S.
Oh.
Yep, those are my first actual miniature paints. I ordered
Yeah.
online. I got 3 Poly S paints to try.
When I started painting my historicals,
God,
my Napoleonics and stuff like that, this is when I started using polyester. Most of my epic scale stuff from when I started playing 40K Epic, man, that was like polyester paints were like, oh my gosh.
yeah.
Then if you wanted any cool colors, then you had to go with the Ralph Parva stuff.
Ah.
so I'm going to throw one out there, and we'll say that this one was probably came out in the 2010s, so not this decade, but the last one. Probably a little bit before 3D printing as a big change in my mind. But if we think of A Song of Ice and Fire that you play, Tim, and if we think of Test of Honor, which Joshua plays, and if we think of the Star Wars game from Fantasy Flight Games, X-Wing.
X-Wing.
Mm-hmm.
There was a period of time that's still going on today where a big part of the game is components and how you play the game. And so the game is made with special dice, special templates, special ways to move things around that you need. And in some cases, it makes it more elegant. In some cases, not always. I absolutely loved X-Wing as a game. Like I found putting templates down and moving ships around and using the little speed dials that your opponent couldn't see that you would pull out and having the special dice mechanic that was different than anything I'd ever played before. And you combine those all together with a pre-painted model, which was a breath of fresh air because as a painter, I could paint other stuff while I played that game and didn't have to paint the stuff.
Yeah.
and I didn't mind that. And so other games, I interpret some of the stuff that Song of Ice and Fire a little bit the same. Maybe I'm wrong, Tim. I'm not sure, but they have their own stuff, like, that's kind of like supports the game, like, trays with like things that you move on them and like, just different things.
Yeah,
like
they have like their own little tactics boards and
yeah,
a lot of little tokens and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different than some of the other mass battle games in that way.
Yeah, because it kind of blurs that line between a mass battle, like regular, either fantasy or historical mass battle game, and probably not in a kind of a small scale game because basically the most you have on a base is either 4 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
4 for cavalry, 12 for infantry, and then there's a few specialized little things there that are different. But then you have your bigger like war elephants, war mammoths, and that sort of thing. But other than that, it's pretty standard all the way across the board. Your infantry, infantry are always on a certain size base, and there's always a certain set of number of guys, 12, and then with cavalry, it's 4. And
Ice and Fire.
Yeah, Song of Ice and Fire. That's the way it is across every army. That's the way it's just generally set up. So they got their own movement trays that specific for them. Tokens and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's.
So for those of us that like board games, which board games have had components for a long time
Yeah.
now, probably before
Oh
wargaming.
yeah, wait, that's probably where they came from.
Yeah, so they've incorporated in some war games, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Like there are times when I really enjoy it. Like there are times when I get a game, I'm like, this is really cool. Like all of the stuff it comes with and how you use it. It's like really neat. And it standardizes some of the things. Like movement templates is another way to cleanly and crisply make models move around in the same way for everybody. And so compared to the back in the day when it was all tape measure, mostly and all like just 6-sided dice or whatever. Now we're seeing all different ways to play, and they're packaging games to play a bit more independently. And so I think that is a change, I would say, from the late 70s, early 80s.
Well, yeah, and even along those same lines, the quality of the components, even like the rule books, or like,
oh god, yes.
I mean, they're fun. Even if I never play a game, there's rule books that I almost can't resist because they're gorgeous. And back then, you hardly had color,
Well, you look at the original Rogue Trader book, and it was black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It had some cool illustrations, but they were still black and white.
Yeah.
And now it's like you pull up the new old world stuff, and it's just color everywhere. It's like it hits you in the face.
Yeah, there's a lot of rule books that are just gorgeous to look through.
And I remember a lot of the early historical games and stuff that I picked up back in the day. It looks like someone typed it out on a typewriter.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then took it to a print shop, printed it up, and then had it comb bind together, or they had it glued together, or stapled, or something of that nature.
Yeah,
by the print shop. So it's just a rule set that is. I just look at what Mel and I did with our first rule sets that we made. It was sent to the print shop. We did a lot of editing on it, but then sent to the print shop, and it was just 3D bound.
Yeah,
comb bind. I started comb binding it myself just to save money.
Wow.
Well, let's. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of interesting points in the comments here. Oh, why does it say hide current comment? Did somebody say something? No. Let's see. Okay. Man, there's actually a lot of comments on this one. Okay, first one is from the last one that we came off is, it's a club thing in the UK when we were talking about clubs and the differences,
how games are popular because it's in the club.
Yeah.
And these clubs are not small either.
No, they're well supported.
3D printing, 3D scanning, laser cutting, new casting, mold making, and the products Sinocast, etc. is Chris's comment. I think that's when we were talking about.
Oh, yeah. Modernize our hobby.
Oh, yeah.
Clyde says the FOSSA era, and I'm assuming that's the
FOSSA.
Starfleet Battles. And is that the Starfleet? That's the first Starfleet
That was Starfleet Battles. Yeah. I played that.
Oh, catalogs, how I miss them, says Chris. The move from testers to oil paint, then the jump to acrylic. Yeah.
Speaking of catalogs,
I've got all my old catalogs in a box over here from the 80s and 90s.
Forge World, which Forge World doesn't exist anymore.
Mel says the paint is a long way from apple barrel. Chris says now we're using oils again. Clark says, if only I could speak on this topic. I am a spry 30 years old and started gaming 7 years ago. Well, you don't have to be like, although I played Rogue Trader, I played D&D, and although I played Rogue Trader in the late 80s for a very brief stint, and although I actually bought and played one game trying to learn 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and then the person I played with stopped wargaming altogether, and that was the end until 2012. You can go back, and if you're into old rules, you can see the chronology over time. Like I had the original BattleTech, or maybe it was the 2nd edition. It was the one they were just cards, but it was like the Warhammer that was on the front with the black border. I had that box as a kid. like I had like cursory knowledge of wargaming, but I'm kind of like you. Like I started in 2012 again, seriously. But I played a lot of games since then that were a lot older, and I started to gravitate towards old rule sets in kind of at times. And so in some ways, I feel like I've experienced some of the stuff that I wasn't there for by just going back to it and trying it out. Joshua says, Tetris Paint. The poor guy, Tim and Gork, rest the souls of all those miniatures too. Lots of laughs. The poor guy, Tim and Gork.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Polly S. Lots of laughs, says Chris. Humbrol.
Oh, yeah. Humbrol in the UK.
Yeah, and Joshua says, great at Clark Step, never too young to start gaming. Mate. Walkabout Games. This show always makes me feel old.
I don't know.
I wish I could play Test of Honor a lot more. Sob, says Joshua. One big thing that is around and becoming more popular is pre-painted miniatures and terrain. Yep, I think that's true. I think that's there's definitely a big need for that because not everybody that likes to game likes to paint.
Well, if you don't have the skill and you can buy something that looks decent, just like you feel like it's money well spent.
And it takes a lot of time to, if you can buy it pre-painted and you're happy with that, that's great. Yeah, it's a great option.
He says, I feel very old. Oh, no, Joshua says, I feel very old at Chris, but Rusty makes me feel young. Don't tell him, though.
Was that trying to say I'm ancient dirt?
So Joshua says, Song of Ice and Fire is an excellent game. I love my Starks, and I need to paint my Greyjoys.
Yeah, I got Starks and neutrals. Yeah, I love my Starks. Was always a fun faction to play.
Joshua's got a question out there. He says, the new Old World books, worth the money, Rusty?
Yeah, I'd say they are.
I would agree.
Yeah, I would agree. I got mine.
I haven't read the rules yet, so I've been only listening to what people said. I bought them to make sure I had them, but I've not actually taken the time to read them yet.
One thing I really like about them is that you got all these armies are in one book.
Yeah, like they did that for Middle Earth too. It makes me think that they're going to try to. I don't think they're going to be releasing new editions very soon. I think this is going to be the rule set for a while.
It saves them money.
Yeah, well, and it's not their focus, and that's fair. Don't mess with
same,
it.
Like I was saying before, they released everything, and they even gave us a hint was coming. And I said they're probably going to go the same route as the Horus Heresy, where you got a main rule book, and you're going to have army books.
Yep.
That have all the one side and the other side. And
I like it. Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
And I do see them once they're showing the popularity of this game, how popular it's going to become again. They're going to come out with a third army book, which will have those factions that they didn't release already.
Yeah, Kislev, or you mean even just those? Because
the PDF ones.
Yeah, that you're probably right. That's an opportunity. That money is there. I see people are already printing their own hard copies of those factions.
Yeah.
At
They
print
call
shops.
those the legacy armies or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next comment here is you look like a pain doc orc with those magnifying headset, Palmer.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Come here. You're awesome. You'll grow that arm.
Pain dot, yeah.
In order to make it really realistic, I have to have like two things in my hands. Kind of like holding two things, like with the big smile, right? Because the old orcs always had the smile.
Oh, they were always grinning ear to ear.
Yeah.
I could have inflict a little pain.
Yeah.
The only time I stopped gaming was when I was overseas getting shot at, says Chris.
That's a good time to put that aside.
That is a good time to drop the brush.
That's valid.
You're going to have
everybody. It's like my two brothers that went overseas. They were in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they were still buying BattleTech stuff and painting it up and then shipping it back home just to keep themselves busy.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the comments there. How's everybody doing on their painting tonight? I've cut up all of the off the sprues for 10 warriors, and all I'm doing is actually just mold lines the whole show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
All I did is
There you go. Skeleton.
I got all the bone effects done on all my stuff tonight. And
Tim, did you already put something up there, or did you already show something?
Oh,
Yeah,
well, I'm just
What do you work?
I just fixing up the bottom of the terrain pieces, getting ready for the ground cover. Then I've been working a little bit, doing some flesh work on my command models. So
Nice.
kind of been a little bit all over. What worked a little bit, sprucing him up a little bit. So
Dan, you're working away on a piece of terrain, or?
Yeah, working on this destroyed chimney piece.
Yes,
Got it.
the one we were.
Yeah, been dry brushing and picking out the small bricks and getting the basing done.
Cool.
The base is painted. Lots of progress.
I know Rusty sometimes complains about assembling the plastic models, and I'm usually doing metal ones, and I'm kind of laughing. And right now I'm doing all these plastic models, and man, like it does take a long time to get through these mold
It takes
lines.
a lot of time.
And I don't even think I'm doing a good job, to be honest. But it'll be fine.
well, the one thing about doing great big blocks of stuff is like the mold lines. You'll never see them. I mean, 3-foot rule.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm doing a
that's true.
skirmish game, so I'm doing and I've got some really cool, neat model, but
Rank and file.
I'll take a lot of extra time with that one because he's out there by himself and stuff, or a command model. But I will tell you this: these the ones I got from Aventine, they were on one of my last video. God, they were so clean for metal model.
Yeah.
Not a bit of flash on them.
Aventine.
And I put the question out there because, let's see, this one was from Aventine, and this one came through Gripping Beast. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Well, there we go. Aventine, Gripping Beast.
Mm-hmm.
This one was a much duller metallic look, and this one was super shiny, almost, and so clean. It was like I almost didn't want to put paint on it. It looked so crisp and so clean. I didn't want to put paint on it, but obviously I'm going to. And I put the question out there, and somebody replied to me that it was because of the amount. I wish I could remember who said it. Oh, it makes me mad. But they said it was the amount of tin in the Aventine miniature that made it shinier.
Oh.
And also that it would make it harder. He says it's a good thing it came out so clean is because it would be harder to get the flash off. Well, maybe because it hardens up so much, there's not as much flash. I don't know. But all I can tell you is when these models came in and I opened them up, they were awesome. What you got there, Russ? What is that?
It's my next project.
What is it? I don't even know.
I'm at a loss. Is that like some?
It's a gate.
That's
Maybe
what I say. It looks
expand
like
the picture there.
a portal or
Stargate?
something. Yeah.
It's a Stargate. There you
A
go.
Stargate.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Is that
I'm
did you 3D print that?
Yes.
So did you use two different plastics, two different resins?
Yeah, this is a clear blue resin.
Nice.
No way. That's cool.
Wow.
That is cool.
I have the. I'm going to make a larger version. It's going to be a Stargate. I'm going to put LED lights in it. It's going to be an LED nightlight.
No way. Oh, that's
That's
clever.
These are going to be. I printed 12 of them. I still got to put this gray metallic color on the black area,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be Stargate coasters.
Oh.
So when I get done, it's like I'm going to glue these in, and I'm going to take clear resin and put it in here, so it kind of levels it off a little bit.
Right.
And then I'm going to put green felt on the bottom.
Dang, man.
You are.
Did you just
so
make that
quick.
up or just Did you find that idea on Etsy, or where'd you come up with that?
I was watching somebody that does big giant busts and stuff like I do.
Yeah.
And he just this is a little thing. I'm making these Stargate coasters. And I'm like, where'd you find these?
Here. Hey, buddy.
It's like my
Wow.
daughter and I are huge Stargate fans. So I'm making a set for her too. She doesn't know. This is her
awesome.
upcoming birthday present. So.
That's great. I love that.
I do have a 3D file. I need to print it off. It's of Gandalf facing off against the Balrog.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
the
wow.
book, it's got depth to it.
Oh.
And it's a book insert. So you put it on the bookshelf and I'm going to put LED lights in it. So you flip it on and it's going to have red LEDs and stuff in it. So when it flips on it, and you can see the red glow coming out of the Balrog's mouth.
Oh, cool.
You know what I think is going to happen is I think now with 3D printing, people are going to revert back to like the times of Egypt when you were buried with all kinds of clay pottery like around you and like all your valuables.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be all these different 3D prints that everybody makes. So like you're going to have your Balrog and your Marvel stuff and like, like this all surrounding your casket.
My mausoleum is full of my toys.
A couple thousand years from now, they'll be looking at these are the strangest grave goods we've ever seen.
You'll be like looking at the Hulk, like, what the hell is that?
They're like, what kind of god were they praying to?
Exactly.
Oh, gosh.
These savages?
It wouldn't be wrong there.
I'll show you here in a second.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Rusty's getting the good out of his 3D printer, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Other things that are on my table that I want to work on. This is a card insert for one of our board games.
Oh,
It's
cool.
an organizer.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
nice.
seen people do those.
I 3D printed it off and I've just primed it. So I need to sit down and actually, I'm going to paint it. I got some apple barrel gray here. I'm going to paint it gray.
Yeah, that's perfect for that.
So large stuff. And then here's some insert trays that go with the game.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it holds all the pieces and stuff
Mhm.
inside. So when you're playing the game, it's just right there.
That's awesome.
I saw some of that stuff for Zombicide.
Yeah.
They've been doing that kind of stuff for games for a while now. It's a good idea.
Are those specially made for that game, Rusty? Like they fit in the box, or is
Yeah.
it just okay?
So you get all the pieces and everything, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle. And you put it together inside the box. So you
That's
can
what
pull
I
out
wondered.
the plastic filler that takes up half the box.
Yep.
So this here you can put everything inside the box, and it just keeps it all organized all the time.
Awesome. Yeah. Can you imagine that? I mean, going back when we like 20 years ago, all the stuff that you can do, it's like, yeah, it's a great time to be into any of these hobbies, board games or miniature games or.
Well, I just think back when we first started this show, we really just started seeing 3D printing become something.
Yeah. It was even like, it was so archaic even, you know,
Yeah.
it was just
Yeah, it
barely. And the stuff it was all just filament printing and it was all the layers were, I mean, it wasn't even, and of course there was no files out there or free stuff for very little.
I just think of the
Now it's
filament
crazy.
stuff that I have from my BattleTech terrain, and you can just see the lines in it. You know, it's like
Yeah. I mean, it just wasn't even tempting to me, you know, at that point. It's come a long ways, and interesting to see, you know, what's another 10 years or whatever, 5 or 3 or 20.
Well, we had an episode where we talked about what we thought 3D printing would become. You was like, oh, it'd be great. You know, you might be able to pay people to print the stuff for you. Now you got
Boy.
Etsy doing that for you. You
Yeah.
just pay somebody, you buy it online.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah, one of these days you probably won't even have to paint that. They'll just print it in color.
Well, they're getting that now, where the different color, you're going to have the tanks where you have the different color resins in it.
Mm-hmm. To
And
make
when
the
it prints
camo?
out, and it comes out in color.
Oh my God.
I seen an article about it. It'd be like your inkjet bubble printers, where
Yeah,
you have the
kind of
different
a-
tanks with the different colors. You got your 4 different colors in there, and then it prints it and it makes your different colors. It's in the development
crazy.
stage right now, but it'd be like, wow.
Is it more the filament style or is it more the resin style?
I think it's like an injection style filament, like a filament, but it's got resin tank that it's like curing it as it goes.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's how they're making it work. Yeah.
So it's under research right now. Like,
Wow.
I can't remember. It was some, maybe it was MIT that's doing it. Kind of cool.
Well, they're gonna have to hurry up. Us old musty guys aren't gonna be able to wait too long.
Sounded to me like
It'd be
Toys
highly
R Us is
expensive
doing it.
probably before they get cheap enough.
Yeah. Doesn't seem to take very long though. You know, technology advances so quickly.
You just think of how expensive a resin printer was when they first came out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
for
now,
sure.
Stryker, he just bought himself a. If he's still on it, was it a Mars 4 Pro? He's been having fun trying to get that squared away.
Isn't that the thing with those, getting them set up just right?
Yeah.
And then
The filament. The Rusty, you've not done the filament before. The filament is much more technical, in my opinion, to set up and operate, whereas the resin is a dream in comparison.
Okay, because my buddy Mark around that lives by me, he got a filament one. He's probably had it 3 or 4 years, and he's printed a couple things for me, and and he's printed some cool stuff. But he's also had lots of issues, you know, failed prints or something. You know, it
The
seems like
filament
it's
is much more.
a lot more finicky.
Yeah, I printed a resin miniature the first night that I got my Mars, and it looked really good. It was I just followed the directions, put the thing in, did exactly what they said. Balancing was nothing like compared to the filament, like balancing the bed. There was it was nothing. Like it was just so easy. And I'm not saying that things can't happen, like it can happen with any of them, but the basics is so much easier with resin printing.
Yeah.
The hard part for mine was dialing it in, because nothing, when I first had it set up from the factory settings, it wouldn't adhere to the plate. So I had to experiment with like test print. And finally, it took me 10 days, I think, to finally get it just dialed into where I wanted it to be.
But then you've
And
been good. Other than you had one thing that malfunctioned, but they sent you.
The screen, LCD screen.
Oh, the screen. That's what it was.
And it was still under warranty, so they were like, we'll just replace that for you. So,
oh, that's ideal.
Yeah. But they say it's just a disposable piece anyway. So.
Okay.
You got a Elegoo Mars 4 Max.
Okay, what's his main goals with it?
Let me see here. He sent me a picture earlier. Let's see here. Here we go. I'm going to share screen here in a second.
Okay.
Share screen. There we go. You guys see that?
Nope.
Palmer probably has to add.
Oh, here you go.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. Oh. What is that?
There's howitzers. It's like 40K models.
Okay, it is for 40K though.
Well, yeah, they could be used
Or whatever.
for 40K, but they're like the Isengard or not the something like that. Where
Those are cool.
yeah,
Oh, look at the size of those things. Whoo, sheesh.
yeah, the massive howitzers.
Cool. Oh, he's
Well-
gonna have lots of fun.
He's got it finally dialed in, and he's starting to crank stuff out.
Thought maybe I'll just quickly. I don't think we have too many comments since our last group, but oh wow, I just left Chris's thing on there the whole time as I was looking down with my goggles. The only time I stopped gaming was when I was overseas getting shot at. It's been up the whole time. Sorry, everybody. Nobody even kept me in line there. I'm doing touch-ups on my Trek minis, says Chris, when we're talking about what we're doing. Less tin, the harder it is, and darker the metal looks.
Okay.
Striker says Morris for Max. Main goal is to print stuff.
Mission accomplished. It's already getting her
Death
done.
Corpse of Krieg. It sounds like he's doing some 40K stuff.
Cool.
Well, we are done with the comments.
Getting ready to quit her.
And yeah, I think we are 7 minutes past our normal time.
Is that all?
Only 7. Only
Jeez.
7 minutes past.
Good.
Wow,
Yeah, no,
time
it's
flies
very
when
good.
you're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So for everybody that has not been on the beginning of the show, just for the people that are here, those that are watching the whole show will have heard this like later. But one of our announcements we had on the beginning of the show is, although we still will be inviting special guests, we actually are now expanding to 4 official Musty Wargamers on the show. Tim and Dan are joining us permanently as a quartet. Doesn't that sound kind of weird? Quartet, like for the Musty Wargamers. I don't think it should be a quartet.
No,
That's
I
not
can't
good.
play an instrument.
The Four
and you
Horsemen.
don't want to hear me sing.
The 4 Horsemen.
There you
We're the
go.
4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah. The Mustocalypse. And so, in any case, so we have basically, like everybody's going to be on every show going forward. Well, I should say we're all invited and we'll most likely be on every show going forward. You never know. Sometimes one of us might not be able to make it. But
Right.
and then we're still going to be inviting guests as usual. So people that are interested can join us if just reach out in any way. If you want to join a show, and we do invite folks at times too.
We
on
should
our-
invite
on
Josh
our own
on
accord.
sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's musty. Isn't he turning 50 now or something? He's getting up in there.
Who is?
Josh.
Oh, yeah.
Joshua on Crown of Command.
Mini War Mud is coming just to say hello.
Oh,
No worries.
wait.
No worries. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
on
you
a
can
different
watch
time.
the replay.
There you go.
So thanks everybody for showing up.
Yep.
And yes, Joshua says he's happy to join, so we'll have to organize a time for him to come on.
I
And,
know. Yeah, he said he paints while we talk, so that'd be fun to have him sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great.
Yeah, what
All right,
time is
everybody.
it there?
What time's it in Japan, Joshua?
Must be like. I don't
About
know.
12 hours, 13-hour difference?
It's probably
Is it
significant.
already tomorrow?
Actually, my nephew
2
is in Japan.
So
2 p.m.
It's 2
All right.
p.m.
15 hours. All right.
Well, thanks again, everybody.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody. It's fun.
Yeah, and
Well,
we
it
will
was
be
fun.
back
A
in
lot of people
a
in
couple weeks.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
night, everybody.
Oh, just to let you know, and I got my surgery date in April, so we might be a time in April, or I might miss a show or two. So
Okay.
Oh man.
We'll
I hope
have to-
it fixes what the problem is. I'm rooting
Yeah.
for you.
no.
Yeah.
that-
absolutely.
That kind of pain is no joke.
Yeah.
It's not. So, alrighty.
All right.
So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks over in my channel.
Okay. See you, everybody.
All right.
Take
Good night,
care.
everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you.